All right, what is up, everybody? Welcome to the Cubs Live podcast. I am your host, Kyle Malzhan, alongside co-host Mark Talarico, and we haven't podcasted in a while due to our personal lives. Just to catch you guys up, I'm working with a minor league baseball team this summer in Wisconsin. They're called the Fond du Lac Dock Spiders. So, posting on, our socials and our website, super easy. But sitting down and podcasting, it takes a lot of time. So that's why we're here to talk some baseball. I know Mark just finished up the school year. He's been going on some trips. So, but it's time to talk some baseball. And the Cubs just dropped the series for the first time against Milwaukee this season. And honestly, I'm not too frustrated. Sure, getting shut out back-to-back games is, rough. But this Cubs team, they showed that they can get to the best bullpen in baseball, the Brewers, and that is encouraging for me. I guess, Mark, just touch on the series, and is it time to start taking the Brewers seriously because it's mid-June and they're the first team in the NL to 40 wins. They have the best record in the NL, the Cubs second. So talk to me about this series, and is it time to start taking the Brewers seriously?
The series itself, it didn't upset me either because overall, obviously the Chatwood game was a little rough here and there, but Montgomery looks really good again in the closer game. And the bullpen looked good too, which is really important. And that was the difference in the last two games because the Brewers, their pitching looked very good, and we know that their bullpen is the best in baseball. And we just couldn't get through the second and third game. And their starting pitching was really good too. But I'm not too frustrated about it. It's a 3-game series. It's not going to make or break you, and we didn't get swept, so it's okay. I think that we should be taking the Brewers seriously, and I have been basically all year long. They are a very good team, and they could win over 90 games, and I think they will. But at the same time, I still think that this is the Cubs division to lose, and I think that the Cubs will end up winning by 5 games or so.
I think they win by 3.5, and it's going to come down to one of the 2 series in September, really, to see if they if they can close it out because they play 3 other times this year, one in August, and they have 2 in September. So it's definitely going to be some fun baseball down the stretch to see what team can come up on top. And especially when you get in that September month, when you're playing all divisional games, it's crunch time and you got to win those, and good teams will win those games. So hopefully the Cubs can close it out because you don't want a 1-game playoff game and you don't have Arrieta anymore. So who do you go to? You go to Lester, right? And Lester's had a remarkable year so far too. He's been really on for the Cubs, but you don't want that to come down. You want to get in, a 5-game series right away. So hopefully the Cubs can pull this off, and I expect them to. I mean, this, like you said, it's the Cubs division to lose. We're one of the best teams in the NL, have been for the past 3-4 years. So there should be no question that we will cap it off. It's just how close will that gap be? But it's definitely time to take the Brewers seriously. Like you said, they have a great bullpen. They're a young team playing with nothing to lose, really. Josh Hader's crazy good. I just don't know how they're doing it with the staff they do, but they're doing it. So you got to play up to that ability every time you play them. So now let's get to Tyler Chatwood. His struggles on the mound this season. He can be annoyingly effective at times, but what kills him are his walks. And if you play with fire too much, especially on the mound like Chatwood, it's going to come back and haunt you. It's crazy because he's posted just as many walks as he has strikeouts this season. 58. So every time he strikes someone out, he's walking somebody. And then another thing is he's on pace for the most walks of his career. And we know he was wild, but this wild, I'm really not too sure that I expected this out of Chatwood. But what do the Cubs do with Chatwood when Darvish comes back? I mean, do they slide him in the bullpen, Chatwood, or send him down and put Montgomery in the rotation? Because like you said earlier, Montgomery has looked pretty darn good so far in the starting 5, replacing Darvish. So what do the Cubs do with Chatwood, or what do we do moving forward when, Darvish comes back? Do they go a 6-man? I don't know.
Well, I saw somewhere, I don't know who tweeted it out. It might have been Bleacher Nation. I can't remember, but I think I saw somebody say that Chatwood doesn't have a minor league option with his contract. That could be wrong. That could just be somebody on Twitter that I saw, but he might not have a minor league option. So if that's the case, that means that the Cubs either have to move him to the bullpen, which you don't want somebody that crazy in the bullpen. You don't want somebody to come in the 7th inning, walk 2 batters, and then you throw Strop in there. You don't want that. You do not want that to have to happen. So I think that it's either going to have to be a six-man rotation because Montgomery has proven that he can be a fifth, fourth, even a fourth starter. He's been great. He's been so great lately that you can't move him down. Maybe what you can do is you could have a plan where every time Chatwood starts, once he starts getting erratic, you immediately throw Montgomery in there, or you have a six-man rotation. Regardless, I don't think Chatwood could go to the bullpen, and I don't think Montgomery – I think he's earned the right to stay in the rotation. So
yeah,
it's going to be tough. I think that a six-man rotation would probably be best.
Yeah, I think so too. Another thing that is really worrisome this year is Kyle Hendricks a little bit. Not so much, velocity, because we know he throws down the velocity wise, but the fact that he's given up a lot of home runs, and we haven't seen that from Hendricks. And I don't know what it is. Maybe he's missing his spots. People are starting to figure him out. He throws low velocity every time he's on the mound. So I don't know what it is, but hopefully he can come around too, because Hendricks has been stellar the past 3 years for us quietly too. So I do think that when Darvish gets healthy again, which I think Darvish is going to be 100% better than he was. And there was reports that Darvish, thinks in his mind that Chicago fans hate him, but that's not the case. We just, the thing about sports is when you pay a guy so much money, you want him to live up to the hype right away, right? Obviously, that wasn't the case with Darvish at all, not even close. He's been on the DL twice now. He may not pitch until the All-Star break is over. We don't know the extremity of it, but this guy is a really good pitcher. And when he figures it out, this Cubs rotation is going to figure it out. Mm-hmm. And for the Cubs to have the second best record in the NL right now with Darvish on the DL and doing it with guys like Montgomery or, Chatwood walking every other guy that he does strike out. I mean, when Darvish gets in this rotation, settles in, he's striking out 8-9 guys a game, it's going to be crazy good. And what it can be for the future, it's just if everything comes together. We don't know if it will, but the pieces are all there. Now, Jason Hayward, he's been super hot the past 2-3 weeks. I mean, he's up to 271 on the season. He hit a walk-off grand slam, one of the best games I have personally watched in – oh, God, I think the best regular season game since the Chris Bryant walk-off versus the Rockies in 2015. I mean, it was that feel because the Cubs, all of a sudden, they blew it. They came back, and then they blow it in the 8th and the 9th, if I believe, from homers. So, I mean, the game almost looked as though it was a disaster. Then down to his last strike, a guy who doesn't hit a lot of hard contact balls. It was just defining all the odds right there. And I know you were on a plane, boarding a plane, so you didn't really get to watch any of it. You just saw the replays. But it was a crazy good game. And Jason Hayward, it looks like, he's delivering a lot of extra base hits right now, driving in a lot of guys. And it's great to see because I really want a lot of success out of Hayward because of how good of a teammate he's, taught out to be and how good of a guy he seems. But just as a player standpoint, do you think that he's turning around? I know we're not going to see him bat consistently, maybe 300, but if I will take this right now any single day, a guy batting 271, lower in the lineup. He gets some starts at, second in the lineup, but that's all Joe Madden just throwing him in there. But do you think that Jason Hayward is starting to turn around offensively or at least seeing the ball a little bit better?
He's definitely seeing the ball better. You can see that just by watching him. He looks more confident at the plate, and as fans, I feel better watching him at the plate. It used to be, Jason Hayward, okay, ground ball to first base. That's all I thought it was going to be every single time that he came up. But now I'm looking at him and I'm thinking, okay, he can come through here. He had a huge hit in the 7th inning, I think, of Game 1 against the Brewers. And like you said, the grand slam that I missed, but I've watched numerous times since then. He's been making these big plays that I'm just not used to seeing. So I think he's obviously been really hot the last couple of weeks, and you can look at that by the stats and see how much better he's been doing. I think to see if it's really a long-term thing, I'd like to come back and let's say July 1st. July 1st, at that point, I will assess and be able to say, is Jason Hayward back, or was that just a couple weeks where he was having an out-of-body experience?
And whether it's, out-of-body experience or success and, finding his stroke, I like this Jason Hayward. I mean, having him in your lineup right now is fun because, like you said, it's not just a ground out to second base. It's not a swinging in the dirt strikeout. It's a guy who can legitimately put up a good at-bat and fight at the plate right now, and a guy who will save a run like he did yesterday versus the Brewers. I mean, Jason Hayward has all the abilities. It's just, can he use that and perform it at a big league level? Now, someone that's not hot is Chris Bryant. He's been struggling, which we're not used to this Chris Bryant before. It's the longest streak of his career without a homer. Last time was early May. Do you think it has to do with anything about getting hit in the head earlier at Coors? I'm not too sure if there's any connection. Maybe he's not seeing the ball well. Maybe if he's scared up there. But he said I think he went 0 for 5 versus Milwaukee one of the games, and he said post-game, he doesn't like to show it off, but he does get mad. He goes back in the clubhouse and breaks a bat or two. But I can't see that Chris Bryant. But there's been some frustration bubbling over for him. Not so much offensively. Maybe, the power numbers just are lacking a little bit right now, right? So do you think there's any connection with him getting hit in the head and maybe being scared at the plate?
I don't think that's the case, because even though his power numbers are still not where they need to be, he's still performing at an elite level on base percentage wise. His on base percentage is still 390, 400. It's still top on the team, and his OPS is still right around 900. Like, he is still putting up good numbers. He's just not hitting the ball 450 feet like we're used to seeing. So I would be more concerned if he was, the 0 for 5, that isn't good, but that's not happening every night. He's still getting some base hits. Like, when he let off those 2 games, he did really well. Like, he is still doing well. He just isn't hitting the home runs that we would expect him to see, which that happens for players, because the same thing's happening with Schwarber right now, where he's still getting good hits. He's still getting doubles. He's still seeing the ball well, but he's not hitting the home runs that we expect him to see. And I don't know what the reasoning is behind that. I'm really not sure. I don't think for Chris that it has anything to do with him getting hit in the head. I know that would be normal if it did. The same thing happened to Sammy Sammy Sosa, when that happened to him 15 years ago. But I don't think that has an overlaying effect with why he's not hitting the ball how we expected.
Yeah, and I think for anybody as a player, it's hard once you get beamed as a head, I would imagine, getting back in the box. But Chris Bryant's done it well. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. But like you said, he's still putting up great at-bats, great games. He's being effective. It's just, I think the Cubs fans have certain, expectation of Chris Bryant now, that, he's put together a Rookie of the Year, MVP candidate, 39 homers one year. I mean, he's done a lot of things in such a short time that if he's not hitting homers, they're like, what the heck is going on? But I don't know. It's he's going to hit a lot of homers this year. So we're going to look back in September when he has 30 plus or, high 20s and say this is foolish. But the Cubs offense, at times it looks a little slumpish, but at times it's on. I mean, we have one of the best run differentials in the league. And I think if you're looking at how strong an offense is, the run differential counts, right? And the Cubs have it, but there's so many times where the Cubs leave men on, the Cubs can't, move runners over and everything else. But talk to me a little bit. Do you think the offense, it's looked off sometimes? Is there a little concern for you?
I'm not too concerned about that, because even in 2016, there's been times where the Cubs offense looked off, where I don't know if it was the World Series or the NLCS, where they were like shut out back-to-back games. Like, there are times where the Cubs they don't perform. And they're a young group and they feed off of each other. So once again, I feel like we've had this discussion a million times, where if one person gets hot, the rest of the team will get hot. And that's what I've been seeing recently, where they'll explode for 4 runs in 1 inning, and that'll be it. They'll get 2 runs in the first inning. They'll win a 2-1 ball game. And then nobody's complaining because the Cubs win. And that's just kind of the way that I've been seeing things working. And yes, they're struggling to score with runners in scoring position, but at the same time, they have one of the best team on base percentages, OPS. They have all of these stats that if you look at, the Cubs are in the top 5 of the National League for sure, if not the league. So it's not something to be too concerned about. You could get frustrated with it, obviously, but as long as the Cubs still have one of the top 2 right now, they have the second best record in the National League. It's nothing to really be that stressed about.
Exactly. I mean, this young core is going to produce strikeouts. It's just the fact that they've done it since 2015. It's just, that's the team they are, because they like to swing the bat. But yeah, obviously don't be concerned because this is a really good team that you're seeing. And a lot of fans like to look micro, but not macro. You know, they like to look at the game, each game, game by game. But if you look at a whole, like you said, we rank top 5 in a lot of categories. So the Cubs are getting it done offensively. It's just you can be frustrated, I guess, at some games. You said second best record in the NL, and that's something I want to touch on. The Cubs have been playing really good baseball as of late. At one point they won 9 of 12. What does this Cubs team have to do to sustain this success all the way through the end of the season?
I think that they need the rotation to be able to go longer than they have been, because the Cubs have one of the best bullpens in the league, and that has been carrying them in a way. But this is why I think that the Brewers might fall off, is that they're relying too heavily on it. I don't think Hader for the Brewers is going to be pitching this well in September. I think his arm's going to fall off because they're using him so much. And I think that could happen if the Cubs keep on relying on Cishek, Strop, Montgomery, unless Montgomery's in the rotation, just every game. So that's why I think that in order for the Cubs to really continue the success, the bats are going to do what the bats are going to do. We've seen what's happened with Rizzo. Rizzo has really turned it around, and he's having a Rizzo season again. And Bryant is struggling, but he'll figure it out. Not concerned about that. It's all going to come down to the pitchers. If the Cubs decide to go with a 6-man rotation, if that succeeds, if that's better for Chatwood, and if Montgomery can continue to pitch at this unbelievable level that we're seeing, if that can continue to happen, then the Cubs are going to continue to have one of, if not the best records in the National League.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with you at all because everything you just said is spot on. The Cubs need to have their rotation on lock because when it comes down to those games where you need to win, your rotation needs to come up big time. And the Cubs definitely have names to do so. I'm going to go a little south side on you and say that in order for the Cubs to sustain the success, they need the rotation on point, but they also need Baez and Almora playing to the ability they are right now. Yes. Baez has proved to live up to the hype that we've all expected him. He's having an absurd year. Every single game, it seems like when he's in the lineup, he's doing something great. Whether it's stealing home, hitting a homer, a tag, a diving play, it doesn't matter. And Almora, he's the guy who we've all wanted to see in the lineup every day. And with due playing time, he's hitting the ball pretty well. He's making some spectacular catches. He's scuffing as of late, but those two guys have been key for this Cubs team. And I knew they were going to be good this year, but I didn't know that they're going to be this good, playing at the ability they are. And if Baez can start walking and seeing the ball well, all season, this Cubs team is going to feed off of him down the stretch as well, and Amora in the outfield. Those two guys for me are what's going to make the Cubs be a really good team come September. Is those two guys at the plate because they've shown so much light this season and they've lived up to the hype. So with those two guys, I think, and along with the rotation going well, hopefully we'll see Darvish get back. Hopefully be the you Darvish he is. You're going to see a really good Cubs team who isn't going to back down a fight, who's going to make a fight, and who's going to put up key at-bats in key situations. So, it's going to be a fun stretch down. We have a huge series this weekend along with St. Louis. St. Louis is play St. Louis, some good pitching matchups there. So hopefully the Cubs can win that series, even though they just dropped one to the Brewers. So, I think I'm going to wrap this thing up. So the Cubs, the second best NL team out there in baseball right now. It's pretty crazy to say that because of how much crap they've gotten from the media, from the fans, and the Brewers have been just playing really well. But these two teams, the Brewers and Cubs, are going to see each other in September yet again, 2 times actually. So it's going to come down the stretch. It's going to be fun baseball, Mark, and I'm excited for it. I know you are, and everybody else. So with that, I am Kyle Malzhan, the host of Cubs Live, alongside Mark Talarico. And thanks for tuning in. And we can't wait to get back on it. Have a great day. Go Cubs.